So in part 13, this is the last part in our Wi-Fi design video series, and it's operations and maintenance. And the main question that you want to ask yourself is, what is your responsibility with regard to maintenance? And there's many options here, but disappearing into the night is not one of them. So if you follow these steps and best practices and network design, BICSI, everything else, you should be good. One thing that we know from business is that people, they don't always complain when they have a problem. There's a few customers that are great customers, and they have a tiny little problem, they always complain. And we've got other customers that are just like living with the problem, even though their problem is solvable. So when a customer has a problem, they're secretly mad at you, and it's bad for them, and it's also bad for you, because now your reputation is looking bad, and you keep making the same mistake with the future customers. So you want to be proactive in terms of reaching out to clients and users, make sure their system is functioning to the best of its abilities. And you want to consider the bathtub curve. So what I mean by a bathtub curve is, on the left, when you buy a device, a lot of devices, either they've got a manufacturing defect and they fail right away. So on a technical level, let's say a chip isn't soldered to the circuit board very well, and it falls off after about a week or a month. And then the devices that don't fail early on, they keep working for a while until they get worn out, and then they fail at the end. So end of life could be a year, could be 5 years, could be 10 years. That depends on the environment, that depends on how it's used. So if you have a whole bunch of phones and APs and switches and other devices, some of them are going to fail in the first year, in the first month. You want to keep a whole bunch in stock. About 10% is typical. Check with the manufacturer. They have different specifications for how many extras you should stock. Factor that into your cost. Most of the time they don't stock spare controllers and servers. They're very expensive. You don't really need to. And then you need to negotiate ahead of time with your client to figure out how quickly they expect you to replace a failed component in the network. And obviously, the faster your response time, the more it's going to cost you, and probably therefore more it's going to cost them. And so you either paid for this earlier or you're going to pay for it now. What I mean by that is, if you built a redundant network, it will cost the client more upfront, but then if a component fails, they don't have to worry about replacing it right away, because a redundant network is fault tolerant, so a failed component doesn't affect the service provided. Wi-Fi stays running. If they didn't build a redundant network and something fails, then they have to fix it right away. Otherwise their network is down and the business can't function and the users are frustrated. So you have a service level agreement that defines your response time and the costs, if applicable. And so yeah, if an AP is broken, for example, maybe you can come by once a month and replace the APs that are failed, or once a week or whatever. If a server crashes and a business critical application doesn't function, maybe needs to be repaired within an hour or two. So that depends, again, the manufacturer's warranty for most servers. Let's say if you buy a Dell server, you can pay upfront whatever it is, and they guarantee to repair your server within 2 hours on site. And so that's a pretty good option with regard to servers. You maybe want to consider that, not have to fix it yourself. Again, consider costs too, because let's say you have that AP up on the ceiling in the warehouse and it breaks, and you can replace it, and then Cisco or Aruba or whoever will give you a new AP for free because it's under warranty. But maybe to get to that AP, you have to rent a scissor lift and you have to climb up there, and so the cost of renting a scissor lift and the labor could be like $1,000. So you're out $1,000 even though you didn't pay for the AP. And so who's going to pay for that? Is it you or is it the customer? And you have to factor that in as well. A customer may not be very happy if they have to pay for it later, even if they agreed to it. They might say, hey, I just bought this network and now it's falling apart. Same with cabling. So cables don't really fail that often, especially if they're installed and certified. Hey, if you install the cable and it's certified and then it fails, well, it's probably not your fault, it's a fault of the building. If you didn't install the cable yourself, if this was a responsibility of a low voltage contractor or electrical contractor or the client, then it's not really your problem. A lot of times though, what happens is an AP fails or AP is no longer responding, and it's like, well, it's not the AP. You find out it's the cable, and you test the cable and the cable is bad. So then you have to send the client a bill, and then they have to pay your bill for diagnosing the cable, and then they have to pay a bill to the person who comes out and fixes the cable. And that's not a very efficient process, but for the most part, when the AP fails, the first thing they do is call you, even if it's not the AP, it's the cable. So if you subcontracted the installation of the cables, then you have to go back to your subcontractor for their warranty. And consider also some cabling systems come with a parts and labor warranty. So for example, Panduit has a comprehensive warranty. So if you are a Panduit certified installer, you pass Panduit's training course, and you build a structured cable system, and you only use Panduit parts, so Panduit cables, Panduit racks, Panduit patch panel, Panduit faceplate, Panduit keystone jack, and then you register the system with Panduit, and you use a certifier and certify every data drop in the system. Then Panduit will cover parts and labor on the system to your client. But somebody has to eat the cost somewhere, and it's probably not worth your time since these systems don't fail that often, and mostly this warranty is just a selling point for a more expensive box of cable. We also need to talk about monitoring the system. So depends on what the client wants. A network device that fails will trigger an alert. There's many programs that can be set up to do that. You can also trigger alerts when you have an overload or congestion or a security breach, and these alerts have different parameters that can trigger them. You might be responsible for monitoring the system, or the client's IT department may provide the monitoring. Cloud managed access points have good monitoring options, but that depends on making sure that there's a human to respond to the alerts. If you're not responding to the alerts, then you're just wasting your time. And of course, you have to have a help desk for Wi-Fi, especially if you've deployed a complicated application. So think about who is responsible for providing that level of support. If the client has their own help desk, which is common in a large company, then the help desk or the IT department has to have a proper training on the Wi-Fi system that you installed, so you have to properly train them and give them good documentation. In that case, of course, the users report issues to the help desk, and then the IT department resolves the issues. Depending on the IT department's capabilities, they might fix everything. They might pull cable, replace access points, change configurations, or they might complain to you and make you do it. That depends on the situation. So what if it's your help desk? And then in that case, you're the one responding to user issues, and so you have to figure out how your help desk is going to operate. That means 24/7, 9 to 5, or just leave a voicemail box or an email people can respond to. You might have people on call 24/7, even if you're open 9 to 5. That all depends. And you may have a number of ways that users can contact you. So email, telephone, live chat. Email and live help don't necessarily work when the internet's not working. So if your internet's broken, if there's no Wi-Fi, then they're probably gonna call you. So with that in mind, think about how many people you need to staff in order to operate 24/7 or 9 to 5. And if you've only got one client, depending on how much they're paying you, you're going to be able to profit on staffing a help desk 24/7 or not. What about if you have 3 or 4 clients? Then you can staff the help desk with the same number of people, but to spread out its resources on several clients. You can outsource your help desk. You have to be careful for 3 reasons. First of all, the users may not want to work with a outsourced help desk in a foreign country. They may get frustrated. The second thing is that depending on the complexity of the system, the foreign help desk has to be trained in order to diagnose and troubleshoot the system. So they may be just as lousy as the users when it comes to that. So you can consider outsourcing your help desk, but there are 3 problems with that. The first one is that the users may not enjoy talking to someone in a foreign country. Second is that you have a situation where the Wi-Fi is very complicated, and the complexity means that the foreign help desk doesn't totally understand the system or how to troubleshoot it. They might need a lot of training. The third is that the client may not approve of having this third party be able to talk to their users or access their network for security reasons, compliance with the HEPA or SARbox or other privacy laws that say that you can't transmit some sensitive data to foreign countries. So you've got all kinds of issues. You can also create a knowledge base for the common problems, and then the users can figure it out for themselves. But again, if they can't get on the Wi-Fi and they can't get on the internet, then they can't see the knowledge base. And of course, if it's an authentication app like at a shopping mall or at a hotel, then you definitely need to have a help desk. The hotel probably won't do it, although hotel people can help out a little bit with the guests. Remember, if you're a guest and you're staying at a hotel and the Wi-Fi is not working, you're going to come down to the lobby, complain, and then they're going to give you a refund, or you're not going to stay at that hotel again, and the hotel is going to be very frustrated with you. So help desk is important, and that's it. So I hope you've enjoyed this presentation, and if you have any questions, leave a comment below and we will answer your questions. Thank you.